My name is Suzanne Keplinger. I have the great honor to direct the Catalyst Initiative at the George Family Foundation, and it's such a pleasure to see all of you here today. This is the moment where we really need your help. What we're learning, what we're experiencing in community is there's a great hunger for culturally grounded healing from trauma. For many, many people, accessing healthcare is not realistic. It doesn't seem like it's a culturally relevant practice. So how do we create a continuum of care throughout our systems that values, prioritizes, and supports culturally grounded healing from trauma in community? That's what we're all about today. So I hope you'll have those conversations. It's my great honor to introduce the first speaker of the day. And I'm going to have to read because she's pretty impressive. And all of the bios are on our website too. So if you're not seeing them in your programs, you can go to the George Family Foundation website to learn more. Dr. Sabrina Njai is an integrative psychotherapist and founder of the Heart Nest Wellness Center in Baltimore, where she lovingly serves women, couples, and other healers. She received her PhD in mind-body medicine from Saybrook University, where she studied the use of complementary and alternative interventions for physical, emotional, and spiritual growth. Sabrina is a guest lecturer at Maryland University of Integrative Health and is adjunct faculty at Saybrook University. She is a proud faculty member of the Center for Mind-Body Medicine, where she teaches the art of self-care to healthcare professionals and others from around the country. She is a devoted wife, mother, daughter, and lifelong learner who remains humbled by the healing power of compassion, love, and forgiveness. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sabrina Njai.
Not yet? Oh, okay. So my new best friend is going to handle it. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Penny and Suzanne, for inviting me. Thank you, Minneapolis, for hosting me again. The first time I visited this city was in April of last year when you invited me. And really what I am is just a black girl from the Bronx. That's really what I am. And so when I was invited to come to Minneapolis, I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go to the Midwest. What's going to happen to me there? Oh, I'm not sure. Okay, I'll go. And I landed in the airport, and all the pictures and all the images in my mind around what it meant to land in the Midwest, they disappeared in the airport. I felt this lightness in my body, and I felt an excitement in my heart, and I said, oh, I must be home. And then I got in the light rail, and I saw the sheep, and I said, oh, I really am home. I felt that same lightness in my being that I felt the first time I visited Africa. And so thank you for letting me come back to my home. This is my 4th time here. Now the big test will come in January. Then we'll decide if I'm really home. So I'd like us to start like I start every group session, every couple session, every workshop that I teach, and that is with us taking the breath. Does this work? Do I do it this way? It doesn't matter. We know how to breathe without these pictures. So if you don't mind, if you feel safe enough with this group so far, if you could just put your things on the table or on the floor beneath you, put your feet flat on the ground, and we'll just start by softly closing our eyes and just taking a deep, deep breath in through your nose, making your belly nice and big and round on that in-breath, followed by a soft belly breath out. Again, a deep, deep breath in through your nose, belly nice and big and round, followed by a soft belly breath out. Listening to the sound of my voice. When the belly is round, followed by softness, is an invitation to stimulate the vagus nerve that travels through the abdomen, up the back of the spine, up to the brain. Informing the brain that right now, in this moment, there's an invitation for ease, breath informing the brain, informing the body. That it's okay to be receptive to new information. Letting the breath inform the brain, inform the body. To release all notions of separation. Letting the breath inform the brain, inform the body. To allow the sacredness of this moment to open your heart to new possibilities. And while you're breathing, I want to invite you to just make a heartfelt intention for what you might need to do, for a story that you might need to tell, for a person from a community that is different from yours that you would like to meet. And most importantly, for you to connect to forgotten parts of your own heart, forgotten parts of your own story that need to be shared. And just take 2 more deep, deep breaths. And 1 more. And when you're ready, I want to invite you to slowly open your eyes and softly glance at the person across from you, behind you, next to you. And beginning with your eyes, just say, hello. I'm glad you're here. Now, I have the wonderful opportunity to travel all around the country, and I have met healers like all of you in many, many places. And there's a couple of things that I realize about us. 1, we are unique. And 2, we are a family. Did anyone attend a family reunion this summer? You did, right? What happened there? Did you meet some cousins that you didn't know before? Yes? Anybody attending one next summer? Anybody trying not to attend one? Okay, I'm a little bit of both. I didn't go to one, and I'm planning another one. But what I love about family reunions is that I get to meet long-lost cousins that I never knew before, right? So what I want you to understand about our work as peacemakers is that we're all a family. So just for the next 5 minutes, I want you to meet a new cousin. And I don't want you to be formal and separate. I want you to say, hey, Cousin Jeff, what's up? I'm Sabrina. So nice to meet you. And I got a couple of questions I want you to ask your cousin, okay? I want you to find out where your cousin works. I want you to find out what they've been doing. I want you to find out what their intention is. And I want you to find out why they're here. I really need to use my clickster. Ha. Ha. Stand up, meet yourself a cousin. There is a relative on the stage here. Hey, Chris. Nice to meet you. Where do you work?
Volunteers in America.
Oh, that's so cool. My dad worked there when he retired for several years. Yeah. He worked for a pharmaceutical company, and then when he retired, they sort of loaned him.
Okay.
So he could still make a salary, but he basically, it was like a charitable contribution to Volunteers in America.
Great.
So tell me about your work.
So I work through fundraising, so do grants, We have 4 residential treatment centers here in the area. We're really trying to integrate the trauma that this particular and present the message to the community for support, just to new things.
That's really powerful work. So there's some funders here, actually. Did you know that?
I do, yeah.
All right. You knew, right? You got the whole way. So what do you love about your work?
So I did direct previously for 11 years in a homeless shelter, and it was just, I loved it. I missed it, but I got it right here, step back. So this was a great opportunity. Let's step back. Refocus myself. And just work from the sideline.
So what's your intention today?
Meet people, see what others are doing, really focus on the work that we're doing, kind of be that voice.
I love this city. I can't wait to come back. Thank you. Make sure you switch. Make sure you switch. See you. Purview the room. Make sure you switch. Meet a new cousin. So you already know where I work.
Yes.
Go meet a new cousin. Nice to meet you, Chris. You need a cousin? Oh, hey. I'm Sabrina.
I'm here. You're gonna lose that mic again, aren't you?
I'm gonna lose this too.
Exactly. What do you need? I'll get some. I'll get you some.
Thank you. All right. Wind down the first step of your connection. You coming to meet me? Oh, I love yours. Nice to meet you. What's your name?
I'm Joy.
Joy. Nice to meet you. What do you practice?
I do meditation, space holding, healing most of my time.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, me too. All right. Okay, did everybody get to meet 2 cousins? Did everybody meet 2 cousins? Yes? Yeah? Yes. Oh, yeah. My sister Marnita is going to bang the gong. Please, come on back. Come on back. Yay, thank you. Thank you. Come on back. Come on back. Come on. Hey, David. Hi. Hey, come on back. Thank you. All right. So, see what happens when you meet a new cousin? So, my sister Marnita said that in this level 2 training, you wanted to learn some, what did you call it? Tips and techniques. You gave it a cute little phrase that I can't remember. So you just learned 3 in the first 5 minutes of our gathering. You learn to take a deep breath, because when you take a breath, you become more receptive to yourself and to others. Then you also realize that you have to look in people's eyes and listen and speak through your eyes. And then the third thing you learned already was to be curious. So today, my talk is not really about teaching you something new as much as it is reminding you of what you already know. Does that make sense? Reminding you of what you already know. What you already know is, number one, all of us that do this work, we have survived something. And we're here for a miraculous purpose. And what you also know is that when you sit and listen to people tell their story, you develop a connection. So I have to tell you the truth. Everything I ever learned about trauma and connection was taught to me by my grandmother. I went to school, I got all these degrees, I got a master's in this and a PhD in that and a certification in this, and now I'm getting an MDiv, like don't even ask why, and don't tell my husband, he thinks I'm just going to a weekend class. 3 years in, I just didn't want to get a divorce behind it. So we have all these D's behind our names, right? But you better not tell him. There's a couple other secrets coming up, but don't tell that one. But the reality of it is, everything I ever knew about trauma and connection, I learned from my big mama. And my big mama, her name was Marion Briscoe. And Marion in Arabic means exalted woman of God. So this beautiful soul lived in Harlem in the 50s. She was the daughter of a schizophrenic, she was the daughter of a woman who struggled with schizophrenia. And she was the daughter of a man who struggled with alcoholism. This woman had 6 kids by the time she was 34 years old. 2 of her brothers, actually all of her siblings, struggled with addiction in some form, and 2 of her brothers were active heroin addicts. They lived in a tenement in Harlem in the 1950s. So my mom was 15 at the time. My grandmother was home with my uncle who was on her hip, and another uncle who was holding her hand. The police came to her house in 1950-something and said, "Where are your brothers? They stole something." And she said, "I have no idea where they are." And the police put a gun to her head. "Where are your brothers? Tell us now." She said, "I have no idea where they are." This still happens today, and we all know this story. My grandmother also suffered from high blood pressure, which is also very much still a part of a black woman's story. She suffered a debilitating stroke that night. She was in the hospital for 4 months. They called the priest to come in and deliver last rites, and my mother, who was 15 at the time, decided that her mother was going to die. And the plan was, what are we going to do next, and when is the funeral? My grandmother woke up on Good Friday. I know, every time I tell that story, I get a chill. She woke up on Good Friday. She could no longer speak with her voice. She could no longer use the right side of her body. She was incontinent. And for the rest of her life, she had to watch other people raise her kids, and then watch other people raise her grandkids. And so for many people who I share that story with, that's sort of where they stop, right? Oh, what a terrible story. But here's what this woman taught me. She taught me what I just taught you. Connection starts with the eyes. Connection starts with leaning down. She lived her life in a wheelchair. Connection starts with a laugh. This woman had the heartiest laugh on the planet. If she were in this room today, you wouldn't know the joke, right? She could have been laughing at you. But she would laugh so hysterically that you had no choice but to join her in the laughter. She laughed like a baby. You know, you ever seen like a toddler fall out into bales of laughter? You don't know the joke, right? But you know it's good. So one of the things that she taught me was to kneel down, Sabrina, sit with me, learn from me, watch me. She lived for another 50 years. And most of the people in my family, they missed it. All they saw was an old lady in a diaper and a wheelchair. I saw an angel. I saw somebody that was here, still here, to teach me what love really meant, to teach me what it looks and feels like to meet somebody who carries the light. You guys all know somebody like my big mama, right? Maybe some of you are my big mama. So everything, every lesson I'm teaching you today is from her. And the books that I've read and the places I've been have simply validated what Big Mama taught me. And when she left this earth, the last thing she did when I went to see her, she looked at me, she fell out in laughter. And so while I experienced tremendous sadness around her not being with me physically anymore, I can't help but feel the gratitude and the love every single day. And so I've been telling her story everywhere I go, and I've been writing a book about her life. But she guides my fingers every morning between 3 and 4. She guides my fingers. She tells parts of her story that I couldn't even know. And I choose to share it with all of you and with the world. So the next thing I want you to do is think about who your big mama is. Who taught you about connection? And what lessons did they teach you that you have forgotten, that you need to reconnect with? And to tell you the truth, I know many of you do many things in your career, and some of you might be thinking, well, I'm not really a healer. Well, neither was she, by profession. But she touched the world in a most meaningful way. The second person that taught me everything I need to know about healing was my spiritual guide. His name was Sidi Muhammad Jamal. And he was a Sufi healer and a peacemaker in Jerusalem. This man lived his life serving as a bridge between Palestinians and Israelis. He witnessed the unspeakable. He was shot by Israeli soldiers. And what he told me when I was blessed with the opportunity to sit at his feet, he said, "My beloved, we make no separation. My beloved, we make no separation. Don't get caught up in the religion. Don't get caught up in the look. Remove the veils, remove the pictures, and love the human being." So my teacher, Sidi Muhammad Jamal, was standing outside the mosque where he was the leader in Jerusalem, and for whatever reason, an Israeli soldier came, and he was told to shoot him. And Sidi stood outside. We all called him Sidi. Sidi stood outside, and the Israeli soldier shot him. And Sidi didn't die. And the soldier saw him again later, and he said, "Who the hell are you? I'm good at what I do, and you're supposed to be dead." And Sidi said, "I am Sidi Muhammad Jamal, and I don't leave this planet until Allah says I am leaving this planet. Who are you?" The soldier sat down and became his student. He lived the rest of his life as a Jew, and he became a peacemaker at the same time. So these are the two people who wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, "Hey, Sabrina, we got work to do. You have writing to do." And they woke me up at 3 o'clock today and they said, "Hey, Sabrina, don't forget to tell this group that every last one of them are peacemakers. No matter what they do for a living, every last one of us are peacemakers." So how do we really deepen that connection that we're talking about? We start with setting an intention. We start with setting an intention. And there's all kinds of scientific proof around what happens when we set an intention. So we started today by setting our intentions, right? Of what we want to learn, of what we want to do, of how we want to connect. So before I sit with anyone, I also set an intention. That is a part of my healing ritual. So one of the things that CD taught me when I said to him, "Where do we start?" He said, "You start with a bow. You bow to the beloved soul that is trusting you with their heart." So I begin my sessions with a bow now. And that made perfect sense because my grandmother told me to bow also. I had no choice but to bow. Since she was sitting right here, I had to kneel, I had to bow. So I want you to think about how you want to start your work, how you want to start your day, and what happens to you physiologically when you begin with an intention. So after you set an intention, then you're ready to be fully present. And full presence can't happen from here to here. Full presence happens when we lean in, when we sit low. So now we're fully present with each other, right? And then finally, the best part that I learned from both of these people was how to be attuned. So my grandmother couldn't speak anymore because she lost her ability to physically speak. And then Sidi spoke primarily in Arabic. So I never knew what the heck he was saying to me in English. I know he was saying something, and I knew it was meaningful. So these two teachers of mine required me to really listen. And the language that we spoke was limitless. And what they said to me resonated in my soul. Anyone ever had an experience like that? Where you sat with someone and you didn't speak the same language? What's your name, sweetie? Nancy? Is something coming up for you that you want to share with us? Please. You want to come here? That'd be great, because I'm kind of lonely. I'm tired of this being by myself. Look what I got for you. Oh, we got a mic for you. We got a mic for you. Grab mic, and come back to me. Come, Nancy. Tell us.
I'll stand by you.
Okay, thank you.
What came up for me when she said that is I had the opportunity to go to Japan a number of times. And the last time was for the wedding of the daughter of the family that I had known. And when we said goodbye, we were in a circle, and only one person speaks English. And I'd spent my days with the grandparents. They were trying very hard to teach me Japanese in 10 days. And I loved them. And we would talk. But when I left, they decided to give me a flower arranging tray with all their names on it. And then they gave me flowers and told me, please make us an arrangement, because they knew I love flowers, and I did. And then the uncle, they said things in Japanese, and then the uncle said to Yukiko, who spoke Japanese and English, and he said, tell Nancy that we speak the same language. And I'll never forget that. And by the way, I love the grandfather, and he wanted me to sing songs, and finally I sang a native prayer that I know. He loved that.
Thank you, Nancy. Can you pass that back to me? Thank you. So that's what we're talking about. Ooh. Am I back on? Okay. See how simple this is? See how simple it is? The desire to listen transcends language. It transcends language. And when we're really listening, when we're really watching, we lift what we talk about in Sufism is we lift the veils. We lift the veils that separate us from other human souls. We lift them from our minds, we lift them from our bodies, we lift them from our spirits. Because what we do is we move beyond the pictures and the voices. Now, I know many of you who have been trained in traditional psychotherapy, you've been taught that people who hear voices are crazy. I tell my clients the opposite. If you're not hearing voices, you're crazy. We all hear voices. Healthy people hear voices. Healthy people have pictures. And some of our pictures are not healthy. And some of our voices are harmful. But when we commit to that connection, right, we lift those veils. Now, CD says we have 70,000 of them, so we know what that means. You'll spend your entire life separation between you and someone else. And our deep desire to form connection, to be attuned, to be present, is an invitation to lift them every single day. My prayer for you is that you lift 25, 30 veils today. I lifted a veil around what it meant to visit a city in the middle of America, right? And oh, I am so grateful that I did. I am so grateful that I did. So we talk about connection on 3 levels. We talk about connection from the mind, from the body, and the spirit. And even though it's sort of our inclination to separate the 3, as a mind-body medicine practitioner, as a Sufi healer, I really don't make those separations between the mind, the body, and the spirit. But when people come to see me for help and they're striving to reconnect with their beloveds, and I have people who are coming to see me who have survived unspeakable trauma, I have to separate the 3 for them, just in the beginning. So one of the things that I do with my couples, and I'm thinking of a couple who came to see me recently, both of whom have survived unspeakable trauma. And when I did their intake, I said, tell me about what's happening to your health. They were like, what are you talking about? I came here because he's an ass, right? And I say, tell me more about your belly. What does this have to do with anything, Sabrina? And I said, you fell in love with this guy 15 years ago. What did your belly do then? Well, I had butterflies. Okay, now you hate him. What's your belly doing now? What is your belly doing now? So I might be the first therapist you've ever met who talks about poop with her clients. But this is what I do, because I know that when we're in balance, we're going to the bathroom a couple of times a day. And when we're out of balance, we're either going to the bathroom too much or not enough. Is that correct? It's true. So when I'm guiding my clients who have survived trauma back to their health, I'm talking about this process. And what I know for sure is that our connection is impacting their physiological functioning. I'm thinking of a woman who I'm seeing right now, who now has to see me for free because she lost her job for the 15th time. When she first started seeing me, she was in pain with constipation, in pain. And we've done, all of our work has just been me sitting with her and letting her tell her story and processing the information and shaking and dancing and shifting her diet. And she came in the other day and she said, it finally happened. I said, what happened? She said, I forgave my foster mother, my foster father, my birth mother, and that man who I'll never meet. And you know what I realize now? I can breathe. My clothes feel differently. I am using the bathroom. I am more present for my children. I have a man who I sleep next to who adores me. And that cloak that I've been wearing all those years, it no longer fits. That's what happens when we commit to really being attuned, to paying attention. And you don't have to be a therapist to have that kind of an impact on another human being. So we connect with the body and we experience a tremendous healing. When we look in each other's eyes, I've been looking at Dave since we got here. So when I'm looking at Dave, and my brother Henry's going to talk more about this, but when I look at Dave and we look in each other's eyes, our neurons are firing together. And so when my eyes say, I love you, your eyes say, I love you back, right? And when my eyes say, right? Right? See, you got scared. Dave went, ah, right? So, change your poo. He said I changed his poo. Yeah, that's right, right? So it's really that simple. So when my vagus nerve is stimulated and I'm in a place of complete relaxation, your vagus nerve is also stimulated. So when our vagus nerves are stimulated together, we can completely disagree on everything and still be present. Because that's the third thing that those of us who are peacemakers are being charged to do right now. Right now. Some of you saw the debate last night. That was not polyvagal theory in action. But we have to actually commit ourselves to this theory that when I am relaxed, you're relaxed, we don't have to think alike, we don't have to be alike, we don't have to do anything alike, and I can still send tremendous love to you. I can still send tremendous hope to you. I can still see your heart, and actually, when my vagus nerve is completely relaxed, I can even understand what led you to make that decision. Even though I disagree with the decision that you've made, I can understand what led you to think that what you thought was okay. And what I know for sure is if I commit to speaking with you, to connecting with your eyes, it's going to change the picture. And that's the only way we change the picture. It is the only way we change the picture. And it impacts how we live. It impacts our perception. It impacts chronic illness. We're talking about really affecting global health by simply committing to connection. What we know for sure from the research is that 80% of chronic illnesses are rooted in our stress response. So what does that tell us? Most of us are not having our vagus nerve stimulated enough. Most of us are not producing the hormones of connection. And they happen when we start with the commitment. And so finally, connection and the Spirit bridges us even deeper, bridges us more deeply. See, since I got my dissertation, I have forgotten how to speak in common English words. So it's been a terrible loss, I have to tell you. I forget words like prefix, and, if, but, or. But you do know I didn't forget the word spirit. So when we choose to connect, we impact each other and our world on a deep spiritual level. And the research shows that it doesn't matter what our religious beliefs are. When we commit to a spiritual connection, we experience a healing. So my grandmother, I got to get back to Big Mama, because most of the people who met her, who really chose to see her, decided she was a Christian because they loved her, right? And then my Muslim friends who met her said, oh, you must have taught your grandmother about Islam, and that's why she's so sweet. What is her religion? I said, my grandmother is everything and nothing. She is all of that and then some. Love is her religion, and you can't put her in that box. She's transcended all of the stations that we're striving for. She's there. She's it. She's all that. So I never knew what her religion was, and it never mattered, because I was connected to her in a deep, meaningful way. And the reality of it is, we are all connected. This whole idea of separation is just an illusion. You know it's an illusion, right, Jeff? There's like millions of atoms between you and I. It's all an illusion, but we're caught up in that illusion. So when we commit to really deepening our connection, we lift those veils that keep us separated. And there's so many different ways to lift them. These are in no particular order, but I will tell you, I was a trained psychotherapist. Is it time for me to stop talking? Really? How much time do I have? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, all right. I was looking for a cue to tell me it was time. Okay, so these are not in any particular order, but was anybody here trained as a psychotherapist? Nobody? What did they tell you about touching people? They said no. They said no. You know what I said to that when I graduated? I'm touching. I'm touching. Because I knew instinctively, I'm 22 years old, and I knew touch had a voice. I knew touch had a voice. And I knew working with teenagers in a foster home facility in the Bronx that these kids had no idea what healthy touch was. And it was my job to create a bridge. Their mothers raped them. Their fathers raped them. Their foster parents raped them. The other kids in the group home raped them. They were clueless about healthy touch. They were hypersexualized, and they equated touch with sex. And that's what those crazy teachers thought as well. And I dismissed that idea. Touch has a voice. Touch has a voice, and it speaks more words. It speaks volumes. I teach my clients to just come together and just let their thumbs say, I love you. Let your thumbs say thank you. Let your thumbs say, I'm glad you're here. Let the touch then bridge you back to community. Let the touch bring you back to setting an intention. And the research shows it doesn't matter whether you call it prayer or intention or whatever. it has the same impact. So let touch be your prayer. Let connection be your prayer. And then the final two that just go together is just allowing yourself the freedom of being vulnerable. It is so much easier to do this work when we allow ourselves the freedom of vulnerability, when we honor the fact that if someone tells you a story that impacts you deeply, that it's okay to shed a tear around it. When I was a psychotherapist in training, I was taught, you never cry in front of your clients. And I'm like, damn, this stuff is serious. I'm going to go ahead and cry. Because there's no need for me to keep this in. Because I also know that when I cry, I release the stress hormones that bind me up. And I can do my work better. And then finally, I did my whole master's thesis around love as the real connector in what they call the therapeutic alliance. So what we know for sure is that when we commit to touch, community, intention, vulnerability, and love, the veils start to fly away quickly. It's the only way that we can be connected to other human beings. So I want you to just think today about what story you might need to tell somebody, either here or someplace else. Is it almost time for me to end? It's time for me to go. Guess what? I have to. Oh, I got to pause and answer questions. Oh, great. Okay, I will pause right there and answer questions. Who has a question? Or maybe just something that you just
Can I just
share with
say,
me?
I love you.
I love you. I love you, Marnita.
The amazing Sabrina. Does anybody have a question for Sabrina?
Or a statement.
Or a statement? A thought?
Or just never been on stage before and just want to see how it feels? No? Yes, my love. I know you. Oh, my gosh.
Just raise your hands. We have 2 mics, and we're going to walk around.
It's not much. It's just to say thank you for
Thank you.
reminding us, of, like you said, all the things that we know.
Yes, thank you.
I think I can make my voice heard. On behalf of all of us here, please move to Minneapolis.
Oh. Okay. So thank you, my love. But guess what happened? I moved to Baltimore. I'm originally from New York, and then I moved to, well, I lived a lot of places. I moved to Baltimore, and I took Big Mama with me. I had a lot of nerve, right? I told everyone, you can't take care of her, she's mine. I took her to Baltimore with me. My parents then left California and followed me to Baltimore. Then half the Bronx, I'm serious, half the Bronx left and followed me to Baltimore. Now they're all in Baltimore. They showed up with all their chronic illnesses, and they said, Sabrina, love us, take care of us. So now I can't leave. So, but if you invite me back a lot, I'll keep coming back. But I'm not going back to the Mall of America. I'm sorry. It's a lot. It's just so much work. I saw a sister in the back right here.
Oh, here. Let me. Do you have one over there, Alex? I'll go that way.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
we're going to do this person first, and then we're going to get to you, okay, sweetie? Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, it just, so much of what you said just resonated, and just like, just things that you naturally have been taught to do, and you don't always have words for it, but you know it works. You
Yes,
know that
yes.
people are touched, and you can see the light, and I just love it. So.
Oh, thank you. You know when you know it's really working? When you don't even remember what you said. Because you're not speaking from this part. You're speaking from here. And you're speaking from here. And they say, oh my God, what you did was so beautiful. And you're like, oh yeah, that's great, thanks. You know what you did. That's how you know it's working. Thank you. What's your name? Jean? Thank you, Jean. Yes, my dear.
How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
I wanted to know, when did your journey start? When did you start going to school and then deciding where you wanted to go once you started your first semester in college?
Oh, so my learning started long before college.
Okay.
I knew I was supposed to be a healer when I was 3 years old. And actually, there's an exercise that I do in my workshops where I can get all of you to tell me a story about when you were between the ages of 3 and 5, when you knew you were supposed to be a healer. And perhaps things happened in your life that pulled you away from that dream. But I know that the root, it's just after we learn how to really speak in complete sentences. That's the memory. I know it even predates that. So when I was 3 years old, a series of events happened to me that I don't even have time to go into. And I knew I was supposed to be a healer. I knew I was a connector. I knew it. And then different people in my family talked me out of it and they had really good intentions. They just basically said, you're going to be broke for the rest of your life. Don't do that. Don't help people. You can't save the world. Stop it. Okay, it was my father. Don't stop. Just go into business. Get your MBA. So my first semester of college, I said, of course, Daddy, you're paying for it. I'm going to do that. And I majored in economics. I got a big fat F, my first class. Then I took another one, and I got a D. Okay, so now I'm on a roll, right? So I'm taking, then I took an engineering class and cheated. Talk about veils. I assumed that the Japanese girl next to me knew more than me simply because she was Japanese. How disgusting is that? Guess what? She got a D, and so did I, right? So there was another veil lifted. Yeah, because I went to UCLA, and that's what they told us. Follow the Japanese girls. They're really smart. Yeah, guess what? So then I gave up on all my racist antics and the lie that I was telling myself that I could be a businesswoman in the traditional sense. And I went into psychology. Oh, thank you. I went and majored in psychology, and then I called my father, like, Daddy, I'm moving back to the Bronx. I'm going to social work school. He cried. He bought me a car. He did everything he could, and I was in. So thank you. Oh, my beloved B.
So when I bring the mic around, and this is true for all day, I have to give you, has anybody seen my Beyonce talk like a rock star? Hold the mic close to your mouth and tip it back. There's a reason Beyonce does that. It makes you sound better on mic.
I thought she just wanted to see her unitard. I didn't know.
Is that good? Is that good enough? Okay. I have two questions for probably for all of us.
Yeah.
But how can we, in the U.S., and as you know, I work internationally, so also in war zones, in areas where there is violence, what are the mechanisms for us to support communities and support us collectively to remember how to set an intention? Just to go through some of the points you make, the intention and the presence. Because then the attunements come from that, right?
Right.
Because individually, we know how we can do it, but there are limits to the number of people we can serve. And I know from talking with Rosa yesterday with the Center of Victims of Torture, you know, you reach a limited number of people. You know, there are so many more people. So how do we remember in this community, in this society, to remember our intentions, to, as we discussed with Gail, talking about reconciliation and healing racial relationship in this country, to heal our past, to not just focus on the problem, but to remember the vision, to remember what we want to build together, that's the intention, and what we want to heal together, and to come back to radical presence, because there are so many things that take us away from being present. It's more and more and more and more in this society.
Absolutely.
So it's just an invitation. How do we create the possibilities of that happening again in our communities so that we can touch more people indirectly also?
Yeah. So you asked it and then you sort of answered it too. You guys didn't hear it. That's my friend B. Bad. And she runs the Alliance for Peace Building. So a couple of thoughts came to me. I was thinking about the Buddhist teacher Tara Brach. You know her? And one of the things she says in her talks is that we engage in spiritual practices so we can remember what we forgot. And I feel like that intention, it needs to be a spiritual practice. And one of the things that my teacher used to tell us is that whatever you wake up obsessing over, that is what you worship. I know, right? Ooh, ooh, yes. Because it was so easy for me, so easy for all of us to wake up obsessing over how big our credit card bill is, the person at work that pissed us off, the person next to us that pissed us off, right? So it's easy to do that. But that thought really landed in my heart. It doesn't mean that I don't wake up thinking about some of these other things, but being reminded that whatever I'm obsessing over when I wake up in the morning is what I worship was an invitation for me to shift it. To shift that thought immediately to something about what I need to do today. And the reality of it is most of us will do things that are really small. Most of us will not stand on stages or be invited to speak on television or do anything in the public media. But last week, I was with a group of flight attendants, believe it or not. And I told the flight attendants they were all peacemakers. And they were like, what? I give out peanuts. What are you talking about? And I said, excuse me. If the flying butterfly in China impacts the weather patterns in Chicago, don't tell me that you touching someone's hand while they're in a place of great fear is not impactful. So everything we do is impactful. Everything has a global impact, even if we can't see it. And I think sometimes we have to be okay with the fact that we might not see the global impact, but that something is happening every time we set that intention. Do we have time for me to tell a story? Oh, I have a question. Oh. Do you have a question? Yes, my love.
Muy buenos días.
Buenos días, mija.
Mi nombre es Rita Navarrete.
My name is Rita Navarrete.
Curandera de México.
I'm a healer from Mexico. My name is Rita Navarrete.
Y yo me quiero honrar regalándole una ofrenda de mis comunidades de México.
I want to honor you by giving you an offering from my community in Mexico.
Mashallah.
I give gratitude.
Porque los curanderos lo que buscamos es tan simple.
I give gratitude because what we as healers have, it's so simple.
Porque la ciencia del curandero
The science of a healer
está entre el cielo y la tierra.
is to walk between the heavens and the earth.
En el despertar de la conciencia.
To wake up consciousness.
Por eso es importante para mí.
That's why it's important for me.
Reconocer lo importante que es cuidar las semillas sagradas.
That's why it's important to take care of our sacred seeds.
De los abuelos.
Of our grandparents.
Para que nuestras generaciones de ahora y las que vienen.
For our generations from now and the ones to come.
Sigan tomando de nosotros los abuelos.
They are continue to be all our grandparents.
La medicina sagrada que es el despertar de la conciencia a nivel espiritual.
The sacred medicine is to wake up our conscious from a spiritual level.
Y por eso el mal un día dijo que iba a esconder el bien hasta la luna o el fin del universo.
The bad said that it would hide the good from the moon to all of the universe.
Para que no lo encontrara nunca.
So that you would never be able to find it.
Sin embargo, después un ángel dijo, la vamos a esconder. Dijo, no, porque algún día van a llegar a la luna y van a encontrar ahí la felicidad.
No, you can't hide it, an angel said, because at some point they're going to get there to the moon and they'll find their happiness.
Y luego alguien dijo, mejor vamos a esconderla a la profundidad del mar.
And then somebody said, we'll hide it to the deepness of the ocean.
Y otro dijo, no, porque un día la van a encontrar y ahí van a ser tan inteligente el hombre.
And no, one day they'll find it because man will be so intelligent.
Que también la va a encontrar.
They will not be able to hide it.
Entonces alguien dijo, muy inteligente.
And somebody said very intelligently,
¿Sabes dónde les va a costar? Nada, y al mismo tan simple es adentro del mismo. La vamos a guardar.
we're going to keep it inside every single person because that's where they will find it.
Y dijo, no, tampoco. ¿Sabes por qué? Porque les va a costar tanto trabajo.
No, because it's going to cost them so much work.
Que va a venir la tecnología, la ciencia, y van a estar muy ocupados.
Because the science and the technology will come and they won't find it. They'll be very busy.
Y no van a tener tiempo de encontrarla.
They won't have time to find it.
Pero contestó la voz poderosa.
But then the strong voice came, the powerful voice.
Es que es tan simple que puede estar en la orilla del bosque.
It could be on the side of the forest.
Y en el silencio.
And you'll find it in the silence.
Y ahí va a encontrar la paz del interior.
You'll find your interior peace.
Es lo que hacemos los curanderos.
That's what us as healers do.
Las manos,
The hands,
los ojos,
the eyes,
el amor,
and the love.
el respeto por el universo. y todos los que quieren estar con nosotros en trauma.
and the respect for all of those who want to work with those with trauma.
Es tan simple
It's so simple
ver las ventanas del alma.
to see the windows of the souls that is their eyes.
Thank you. Can I hug you? Should I put it on?
Nosotros en la tradición,
In our tradition,
al abrir las manos,
when you open your hands,
usted dirige las puntas a mi corazón.
put the points to my heart.
Gracias por permitirme entrar en usted.
Thank you for permitting me to come within you.
Amen.
Y cuando mencionamos estos 4 puntos,
And when I mention these 4 directions,
es honrar a los 4 puntos donde sale el sol, donde se mete.
it's to honor the 4 directions where the sun rises and the sun sets.
El rumbo de la esencia de la energía de los abuelitos,
The direction with the essence of our grandparents,
pero también donde descansan en la oscuridad los que nunca despertaron en conciencia.
but also in the direction where they rest, where the people of our warriors and our women rest and they never wake.
Así que con el permiso del cielo y la tierra
With the permission of the heavens and the earth,
y de mi corazón comparto con usted estas semillas.
and from my heart I share with you these seeds.
Y es un honor
And it's an honor
cuidar el ombligo,
to take care of your belly button.
que en el curanderismo está el cuidado de nuestro ombligo principal para el curandero.
For us, it's extremely important you take care of your belly button because that's where we take in energy. And she just like to gift this as an offering of medicine. So thank you from.
Y en náhuatl nuestra palabra es ometeo,
In Nahuatl, our indigenous language is Ometeot, which is the duality, which basically means I see the divine in you and the divine is in me.
el respeto por la dualidad de lo femenino y lo masculino.
And respecting the duality of the masculine and the feminine.
Y el equilibrio.
Amen.
Ometeot.
Oh, my God. Whew. I'm glad I told you guys about that vulnerability piece before this sister started talking. Oh, wow. I think this beloved finished my talk.
Yeah, I do. But not just from that was mic drop. Like,
Yeah, there's,
yeah,
yes.
I agree, dear.
She finished. Thank you.
The fabulous Sabrina.
Thank you.